application.
Madam Chair?
Supervisor Miller.
I had some questions for Mr. Gugino. This compromise was negotiated by a handful of people, I understand, and this is the input that we got from area residents, and you're saying it was negotiated 1 week ago. And this concerns me greatly that the residents haven't had proper time to actually get this document. I just got it yesterday, and it appears Arlen just got it this morning. And so we sent it out to the residents last night when we got it yesterday afternoon, all of the residents that have protested. And I do know that the supermajority is still in place. No one has told their rejection of this project. So that really concerns me because I know there were 4 or 5 people. I met with you multiple times. I went out and toured the project. I went to Mr. Munson's office. We met with Katrina. Talked to Mr. Hefferly, and I know you came to my office, and my concern is that these people, the majority of the people up there, have not had adequate time to understand and be able to review whether or not that they accept this project, and based on the information we have right now, they do not.
Well, Supervisor Miller, let me clear up a few points. First of all, I called to come to your office, and I could not get an appointment. And I have not seen you at your office since the comprehensive plan amendment last September.
Mr. Gugino, that is not true.
That is true.
We toured the building out on River Road together.
We talked about coming to your office. You said I came to your office. I did
Can
not.
finish before you interrupt.
Okay, I did not. We had 2 meetings, one at Chris Monson's office that he called, that 3 of the people that I met with for the compromise were there at, and we toured 1000 West River Road, during which we had no discussions because it wasn't really a setting, it was a tour. It wasn't a setting to have discussions. Let me finish, because I have some rights here also. And I called your office on the, I think it was the Friday of Easter weekend. I spoke to Joe, your aide, and I requested that you call me and left my cell number, and you never called me. I've not talked to you since then. We got the message, but you didn't call me. So it's impossible for me to negotiate and fill you in on things, quite honestly. I have some respect coming this way also. When I don't hear from you, I can only negotiate with those that are willing to talk. I met with a group who has formed a website. They accounted for about 80% of the form protest letters. So certainly I would think that is the group when they put out in writing that they represent 9 HOAs. And I know you have been changing information with them because you did with one of their representatives when we took the tour. And I'm sure you looked at them as a representative of this joint committee.
Mr. Gugino, I did talk to multiple people, and we've been, my staff has been in constant contact with the representatives. I did return your call. If you didn't get it, I'm sorry, but I did return your call and left a message to call me back, and we did not hear back from you. And this has been an ongoing issue, and it's been constantly changing over the time. I think you would agree with that you've been trying to work with neighbors, and I respect the fact that you've done that. And however, the fact that, you know, Mr. Colton gets it this morning, I get it yesterday afternoon, and just the dissemination of that to the residents, I don't think adequate time has been put out there for them to actually understand what is going to be happening on this property. And as I noted, there have been no withdrawals of the objections. There's still, I mean, we can ask what the number is and whether there's been any withdrawals from the staff. I think they're better prepared to answer that and get an unbiased opinion. I mean, we can disagree on that. And I have worked with many people on this and worked very hard on this to try to get a resolution. And you know, when we met in Mr. Munson's office and discussed this, you weren't willing to do anything at that point, and you stated that. So we have tried to work with you, and we have been working with the neighbors, and they have all, and Mr. Hefferly specifically, I've been in constant contact with him. And end of the day, I think that I feel the fact that this came into my office yesterday, I got it through the back, and I wasn't sure whether it was the actual proposal or not. So I didn't, the compromise that you had reached. So I got it yesterday afternoon, and we were only able to disseminate that to the neighbors yesterday afternoon. And who knows if they're home, if they got an opportunity to review it. That's just my point that I want to make about that. The other question I have for you is, how much much was the footprint reduced or increased as a result of the change?
I'm going to be glad to answer that, but first I'm sorry, but I have to respond to one of your comments because I've been doing this for over 35 years. I have never been disrespectful, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to you, but when you tell something that's not true, I apologize, but I have to correct you. I was never at that meeting that we had at Chris Monson's. I never said that I was not willing to compromise. As a matter of fact, I sent you an email later that day. Let me read it to you. And this was sent on March 31st at 6:27 p.m. Allie, thank you for taking the time this morning to meet the 5 of us to discuss the pending rezoning application. We look forward to the tour of the community at 4050 West Erie Road on Monday, April 14th, 2014 at 11 a.m. In the meantime, please let me know if there is anything I can do to address neighbor concerns or advance a resolution of this matter. That doesn't sound to me like someone who's not willing to negotiate. I apologize. I never got a response to this. So I'm not going to continue arguing with you. I apologize.
I'd like to make one
I'm not trying
point.
to. But let me answer your other question, and then I'm sure you've got plenty of points. Okay? The question you asked is the reduction in the footprint from the original to where it is now is somewhere between 20 and 30,000 square feet.
For the whole, with the garages
Yes.
and everything? Okay, that's a reduction in the footprint.
Yes.
Now, I would like to, the beginning of your email, you said, thank you for meeting with the 5 of us yesterday. That was the meeting at Chris Munson's office, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I
You
said-
just,
Just a minute. Who's ever got the cell phone, please turn it off and respect the people in this. Thank you.
you just stated.
I know that happens, but
You just
thank
stated that I did not meet, you did not meet with me at Chris Munson's office. We did.
I did not state
No,
that.
he did not.
Supervisor Miller, I said that I met with you. I said I did not say that I was not willing to compromise.
Okay. All right, is this, the other question I have for you is what about the issues with the water and how do you plan to address those? Because that's an ongoing concern.
I'm going to ask our project engineer, Aaron Harris, to address that.
Good morning, Supervisor Miller, Chairperson Bronson. The issue of the Aaron Harris, Star Consulting 5405 East Placita Heights, Tucson, Arizona 85718. The issue of the water supply and the groundwater concerns is a multifaceted discussion. So if I can have a little latitude in having a lengthy description for you. This project is in the Metro Water service area, and because of the way their system is set up, they do not have access to a renewable water supply available in this area. We do have Tucson water lines that are out in Sabino Canyon Road that would be very easy to connect to, and those do have access to renewable water, but we are part of the Metro Water district. And because of that assignment of district, we will be receiving our potable service through Metro Water.
Let me just, in point of clarification, so whatever development would occur on this property, and development will occur, it's an infill site clearly. The water provider in all circumstances will be Metro Water for this property.
That is absolutely correct.
So then, to me, that says we're going to have this problem, or the concern that Supervisor Miller has will occur irregardless because this is a Metro Water service area.
That is absolutely correct. And the concerns with you, so once we're using the Metro Water district, the concern is then twofold. It is the access, the lack of access to a renewable water supply. And it is also because some of their wells are located within an area defined as being of shallow groundwater. That definition has a bit of conflict between different people who are looking at it. Metro Water says that they have accurate well monitoring that indicates that the groundwater is not within 50 feet of the surface. But however, according to the Pima County planning maps, it is an area of shallow groundwater. And that was part of our concern as well. So I'd like to delve into that a little bit to address your question. Because it is an area of shallow groundwater, we asked Metro Water some very tough questions of their engineers, and I believe that neighbors have asked them some tough questions as well as other folks. And that is one of, how do you manage this? How do you know if the drawdown on your wells is significant to where it's going to have a biological impact in this area? What are you doing as far as management goes and things of that nature? And I brought along some quotes that I could share with you from emails. But by and large, the response from Metro Water was that they very, very carefully manage their groundwater supply. It is where they get their water from for their entire system. This project is served not only by one well, which happens to be in the shallow groundwater area, but it's served by multiple wells throughout their system. They balance it out to serve the system as a whole. So they were confident in their ability to serve this development. They are a 100-year assured water supply provider, and we are making system improvements to the public water line in the area in order to provide fire flow. But they seem very confident with their ability to provide service to this development. They even went as far as to say that our proposed use and water use for this site is substantially lower than what they have been planning for this site, for the historical dialogue. In addition to that, we did work very closely with flood control to further identify ways that we can mitigate the water use. And the easy ones right off the top are in our final integrated water management plan that include low flow toilets, low use shower heads, smart irrigation controls, things of this nature that reduce the water use right off the top. And in addition to that, we're also doing some unique drainage alternatives on this site that will further lead to recharge of the groundwater, and that is with the open channel, it's with the water harvesting, it's with the first flush retention, and also by perforating the bottoms of our detention chambers underground, we're able to directly recharge to the groundwater system.
Okay, and my final comments are that my real concern is that any compromise or agreement needs to come from the community at large, and it obviously didn't because no one withdrew their, didn't have any withdrawals from the complaints or the objections. And it shouldn't be from a handful of individuals negotiating a deal at the last minute. And if they negotiated and were able to distribute this, and give people adequate time to review, and then they pulled their objections, that would be one thing. But based upon what we have received in my office and based upon the staff report, there have people received it last night, people received it I don't know when, Arlen got it this morning, that people have not had the opportunity to review this, and as a result of that, they haven't pulled their objections. Maybe some would if they had more time to review that. And I believe that to achieve this, the infill development definition says ensure that new or redeveloped mixed use or infill new zonings assess the privacy and character concerns of existing neighbors. I think that is so important. The Planning and Zoning Commission also voted no on this, and they were in agreement. Mr. Elias's two Planning and Zoning Commissioners agreed with mine, which is an unusual thing that happened. That concerns me greatly, that the neighbors, that the supermajority was invoked, and that these people have not had adequate time, they have not had adequate notice. You can't have a compromise and hand it in to the county staff at 8 o'clock this morning, is the first he got it, and expect that that was adequately distributed so that people had time to review it and agree or disagree. And as a result, there were no objections withdrawn, and I think that's unfortunate. And I don't think it was right that a handful of people negotiated. There was an email, and it said Sabino Joint Neighborhoods, which we get a copy of. There was no names identified. There were no names identified with that, who the people were behind that, and I can't tell for sure who it was that was doing this, representing Sabino Joint Neighborhoods Association, who the individuals were based on the emails that have been flying around. And there were a whole lot of, what I saw, a lot of, one of them said that Supervisor Elias was going to make a motion to accept 196 units. There was all kinds of, coercive language used in those. And that really concerns me that these people were under great duress when they actually came, and there was only a handful of them. So I would like, my concern is that, again, people in this neighborhood, we believe that you have the right to develop this property. I certainly do, the neighbors do. I think the characterization of the folks in this area being called NIMBYs, I think that's wrong. They do believe in development. They've communicated strongly. They will just want their neighborhood to remain consistent with its surrounding neighborhood, and they've expressed their concerns. Again, I have met with you. I have met with a lot of the neighbors as well, and I, met with a lot of folks, and we tried to talk to them and see if there was any way that they could come to an agreement. And we were unable to find the common ground. And you found the common ground, but it seems to me you found the common ground with just a handful of people, because the supermajority is still invoked, and that is a great concern.
Madam Chair?
Supervisor Elias.
It's interesting that Supervisor Miller says that she doesn't know who was working on this Sabino Canyon Joint Neighborhood Committee, because the paperwork that she submitted yesterday has all their names written on it.
It did
And
not
she submitted
identify.
Please let him finish.
and was submitted to the clerk of the board's office as additional material for today's meeting. So I find it surprising that she didn't know, because it's right here on the stuff that she submitted.
At this point, I would ask both members of the board on the dais here, as well as speakers in the audience, presenters, that we be respectful of one another. This is getting too argumentative, and it's going to have to stop. So, Supervisor Miller, please respond.
I just wanted to state that the Sabino Joints neighborhood emails never were signed. There were no names associated with it. There were individuals on there, David Hefferly, Chris Munson, and those individuals. Are they the individuals behind the Sabino Joint neighborhood? I don't know. There was no way to tell. Those emails came in just sent from Sabino Joint Neighborhood Association with no names attached. That was just the point I was trying to make. Thank you.
I'm not sure if there's a question.
Are there any further questions of Mr. Gugino?
Mr. Gugino, could you tell me who is in fact representing Sabino Joint Neighborhood Association?
I can tell you that when we met on March 31st at Chris Monson's office with you, Chris Monson called the meeting, Dave Hefferly and Katrina McNary were there on behalf of the Sabino Joint Neighborhoods Association.
2 people?
Yes, as I understand I understand that's who showed up at a meeting with you to discuss this on behalf of the association. I can tell you that as far as protests, we did not make as part of a compromise any requirement that protests be withdrawn. I wouldn't think of doing that. Quite honestly, in cases, whether it's in front of the zoning commission, whether it's in front of the board of supervisors, or whether it's in front of the courts, compromises are often reached at the last minute. And they're honored because they're the will of the people. In this situation, there is no way that I can go out and negotiate with 400 families that filed. So I have to look to the organization that had a web page that solicited the protests. And by the way, that organization posted the news of this settlement on its web page last Thursday, and I sent a copy of that to Chris Boyer and Dave Peterson, who are the 2 staff people that I've been dealing with. So they've had that since last Thursday. It was not something, Mr. Colton may not have seen it till this morning, but staff members that were handling this file had it last Thursday, which is when it was posted.
I think we've exhausted the subject.